Okay, welcome everybody to our annual meeting of the 64 through 67th Streets Block Association. We're also being joined by some other local block associations. We have Shane Begleiter from 68th Street. We should also have our friends from 69th and 70th Street. Here's Cara Kelly from 69th Street. We have what we call our Lincoln Square COVID task force from 64 to 70th Street. And let's just get things going, mindful of everybody's time. We see our friends from the bid are here, Monica Blum and Phil Gordon. So maybe we hand it over to Monica and Phil to start to tell us what's going on with the bid. Welcome. Hello.
Oh my God, we've had such excitement. Oh, I'm glad to see Sergeant Malone here. One of our information carts, these huge things that you see filled with promotional literature, was stolen the other night. It just it didn't just disappear. It was pushed, and it's very, very heavy. You've all seen these. I can't pull up a picture because I'm not skillful enough, but maybe Phil can. You know, these are really heavy. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, someone pushed it from its rain location. And the last sighting we do have some video sighting. The last sighting we have is at 4:11 or something, showing that person, whom I'm convinced is a female, pushing it towards Central Park. It has not been found yet. We have the whole police force of New York City looking for it. Patrol Borough Manhattan North, Central Park Precinct, the 2-0, the 19th Precinct, but no one has found it. And the video, we thought we're not sure who the person was, but we thought it might be someone that is a regular in the district. But it's making me a little crazy because who does this? And these are expensive. We purchased them in 2009. Each one was $10,000, and I obviously can't replace it because it was custom made. So, but it is just an object, and insurance will cover it. But I can't believe that you can't find it. I think whoever took it probably turned it on its side and is using the cut, making it into a little home. Other than that, things are okay. We've had, so that's the grand larceny of the day, of course. Pedestrian traffic has picked up somewhat, but we're still 60% below where we were pre-pandemic. We had a good annual meeting, virtual. We didn't think anybody would come if it weren't virtual. We had Deputy Mayor Phil Banks spoke, which was great because he was great. He really said that everybody should reach out to him. He has an open line, and Mark Levine spoke at our annual meeting too. He was terrific. Everybody really liked him. And pedestrian traffic is at 60% of, it's down 60%. And we were hoping that tonight with Lincoln Center's opening, the numbers would go up, but I don't know if the rain has stopped yet. So other than that, we're fully staffed for public percent. Our clean team is fully staffed. We hope this works out. Melissa's closed, and we hired one of the workers in Melissa's, who is so grateful for this job. It's really nice to see. I would hire more if we don't know where they are. Public safety is still way down. We do not have enough staff there's Richard too, where we can't, champion of bids, founder of bids, more or less, I would say. So that's about all I have to report. We're understaffed in my office too. I had 3 departures, and we're interviewing. We're going to combine one position to Director of Marketing and Special Projects. And we're starting to interview we had a lot of applicants for the program assistant job, but most of them don't want to come to work. And I would say almost all of them didn't even look at our website, which was really discouraging. So, but otherwise things are okay. We're holding down the fort with a small staff.
Monica, quick question. How are you forecasting the traffic, the bid traffic through, coming into the end of
We
22?
do it the old fashioned way, click, click, click.
But are you seeing, is your forecast that we're going to continue to increase? Do you see that happening?
Well, we are getting tourists, so it's not it's not employees. We see tourists. We see them leaving, the Empire Hotel seems busy, and the other hotels I think are fairly busy as well. So I can't predict workers. We don't have a sense of that. I mean, I don't know what Lincoln Center's level of staffing is now. It's mobbed over there, and a lot of construction workers. So I don't know if we count. Do we count construction workers, Phil, as pedestrians? You're muted.
If they're passing by, then we would count them.
Right.
I think, Chris, to your point, generally we are seeing incremental increases in foot traffic, month over month, and even this time last year. But as Monica mentioned, still down significantly, about 60% pre-pandemic.
So, but it's encouraging. I mean, the streets are much more crowded, and also we do count garbage bags, and our garbage bag count is up. So that is another, but we don't have a sophisticated, we had talked about putting counters on street light poles. DOT didn't really like that, even though we said we would share the information. We don't really think it makes sense to put them on buildings, and I can't afford to put them on Lincoln Center's property. So it's all, we have an officer stationed at locations who counts with a counter for 15 minutes and we multiply, but it seems to be reliable enough. Not the best.
Thank you. If it's okay, we have some of our hardworking elected officials, one of whom I think is dialing in from Albany, the very esteemed Assembly Member Dick Gottfried, who I should say historic and soon to retire. So Assembly Member Gottfried, do you have a moment to say hello?
I certainly do. Yeah, we're in session this week. It's slated to be the final week of our regular legislative session, which means we will probably wrap up Friday or Saturday. Last night we worked till about 11 o'clock at night. We'll probably do the same tonight. We're trying to get through a lot of legislation. Couple of topics that have been very much in the news that we're working on is number one, a package to both strengthen protection for access to abortion in New York, both for New Yorkers and to make New York really a beacon or a haven for people from other states that do not have strong protective legislation like New York does, but actually other states that have the opposite of legislation. And another topic that we are going to be passing several bills on, we've already passed one or two, is trying to deal with gun violence. New York already has some of the strongest gun control legislation in the country. We're trying to make it stronger. One proposition that has gotten a lot of attention here in New York and nationally is raising the age for purchase and possession of either semi-automatic weapons or all guns up to age 21. and I hope we can do that. We are, there's a zillion other bills that we're trying to pass. One that Senator Brad Hoylman has already gotten passed in the state Senate, and that I'm trying to get passed here in the Assembly, is an effort to try to cut down on or eliminate the noise pollution from tourism helicopters that mostly come in from New Jersey. And we're looking at legislation that would enable New Yorkers to sue for damages when they are, when they are essentially damaged by tourism helicopter noise. I'm hoping we can get that bill passed on the Assembly side. It's, we're pushing for it. And it certainly helps a lot that that Senator Hoylman got it passed in the Senate just a couple of hours ago. In the community, of course, our work continues on issues that the 6467 is very familiar with. The constant effort to try to control and limit excessive development and protect some of our historic landmark resources in the community. That's a fight that I remember testifying at city planning hearings and Board of Estimate hearings in 1969 and 70, even before I was elected to the Assembly. So this is a constant fight. But it's terrific having 64, 67 to work with, and having the Monica's bid working with us. Our community has a lot of strengths, and we need it. So those are some of the things I'd like to say. If you want me to take questions, I'd be happy to.
Does anybody in the community have anything they want to direct towards our Assembly member? Use the raise hand function if you do, and I know that you this is a busy time, so you'll be wanting to get back to your work soon. Oh, I see Miss Bowman. Please unmute.
Mute. Yes, hi, Assemblyman. Thank you for taking questions. This regards the crime in the neighborhood, which I think everybody is concerned over, with the shootings and stabbings and all of this. And it seems like a lot of this is being done by a very small number of people who, and many of whom have multiple violent felony arrests behind them. I'm very much in favor of, bail reform and everything, but, this seems like people like this should not be put out in bail. And I wondered if you could comment on that.
Well, first of all, there has been a lot of misinformation put out about the bail reform that we enacted a couple of years ago. And yes, this year we did roll back some of that. But basically, people who are arrested for violent offenses were not covered by the bail reform legislation that we did. And of course, while New York State did bail reform, 49 states did not, and yet 49 other states all experienced the same or even greater increases in in violent crime that we experienced in New York. There are experts who know this issue better than I do, have come up with various theories as to what has been producing the rising crime in the last 2 years. But I don't think you can blame it on our bail reform law, because bail reform in New York did not produce rising crime in St. Louis or Los Angeles or Chicago or Atlanta. So, you know, we certainly need improved mental health services in New York. You know, one thing that you know, people talk about mandating mental health services. What we so often see is that people who are involved in some of these crimes, like the shoving people onto the tracks in the subways and the like, were people who had a history of going from hospital to hospital demanding mental health services because they knew they had a problem, and being turned away again and again and again. So there's a lot we need to do in New York to make mental health services more available and accessible to those who need them. And I think that could make a real difference.
No, I agree. The thing I'm thinking of in particular is, I believe that one of the shooters on one of the subways the last couple of weeks had eight violent felonies in his past, and yet he had, you know, he was out on the street. He had been arrested and he'd been let out, and you know, maybe our police representative on the Zoom tonight could talk about that. But you know, I'm hearing that a lot of the policemen are sort of saying, why bother to arrest them if they're just going to be let out again? So, so that, you know, and I think a lot of us are very concerned about, you know, the violence of this crime. And also, for example, Duane Reade on 63rd Street has a good amount of their supplies locked up. Things like toothpaste, because, you know, people come in and steal everything.
Yeah.
And,
If I may, I'm sorry, Ms. Bowman. I'm
Go ahead.
I'm getting
Sorry.
word that our borough president needs to get to a next meeting, and he's been waiting.
Of course. Sure.
And Assemblymember Gottfried has to get back to his work in Albany, and we have Senator Hoylman, who I know has got a very narrow window with us. So, and Gail Brewer has just arrived. So, if I can, I'm sorry, if I can
No,
pivot
that's-
to
They might
our
want to
borough-
comment also, you know, so.
Thank
good.
you. If I can,
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dick.
Okay, thanks. Good to be with you.
thank you, Assemblymember God. We're so thrilled to be part of your historic time in our assembly.
Okay, good night.
Borough President Levine, welcome.
Chris, thank you so much. Great to see you and great to see everybody. Sorry for the weird Zoom view here. I'm traveling between events tonight on a very busy evening, but really wanted to be here. This is just one of the most vibrant and vital neighborhoods in the city. Really appreciate the work of the bid. Great to see Monica and Philip here, but appreciate the work of this block association. It's of course an area with major institutions, a magnet for tourism and so many jobs, but it's first and foremost a neighborhood where people live. And what you've done in 64 to 67 is kind of a model for a block association, which I've talked about in other parts of the borough, just the way you've informed your members. I mean, I've really appreciated how you've been active on informing on COVID, among many other topics, and the way you've stood up for the interest of your neighbors is really, really impressive. And I know you have the real challenges in the neighborhood as well, the land use and some of the safety concerns. You know, I'm focused on these as well. Part of, you know, my big picture effort to help Manhattan come back from the very, very difficult 2.5 years that we've all been through, really fighting, obviously, to get beyond the public health crisis, fighting for economic recovery, which means, among other things, bringing tourists back, and fighting on quality of life issues and issues of fairness and justice as well. I know those are all values that all of you share. On the land use front, during my time in the council over the years, I certainly was indirectly involved in the fights that have most impacted your blocks. I was appalled by the development at 60 West 65th with the mechanical voids, and we don't need to relitigate that. We ultimately were able to enact legislation or changes to the zoning, which will prevent that in other properties, although too late, sadly, for this building. Certainly was appalled by the gerrymandering of lots that the developer used to roll up floor area, really to an absurd degree. Very disappointed to see that the court seems to have turned back Landmarks West effort on that front. And of course, we've got another big development looming in the ABC property, and it's early stages on that. But just know that I and my office and my land use team will be very engaged with you, and really want to partner with you to make sure that your perspectives and interests are not ignored. On the public safety front, Dick Gottfried, Assemblyman Gottfried, really touched on a number of critical points. One of which is the intersection of public safety and mental health. And he pointed out something really stark, which is the difficulty in accessing psychiatric care in our hospitals. We have lost hundreds of inpatient psychiatric beds in Manhattan. We lost almost 500 in the previous decade. We probably lost a similar amount during COVID because beds were converted from psychiatric to COVID use. Which is fine at that moment, but of course they're not being converted back. And so it can be months to get access to one of these beds, or people get access to a bed and are pushed out before they're really stable enough to return to the community. I could talk more about what we're pushing in that area, and including establishment of more kind of intermediate level facilities that can take people who need to stabilize from psychiatric crisis for 24, 48, or 72 hours, etc. Happy to talk more about that. And I know that every community has sanitation concerns. Of course, you have a great bid, so that helps. But Councilmember Eric Botcher and I have just introduced legislation that we hope will help on the rats infestation front, particularly as pertains to construction. So often when there's construction, it dramatically exacerbates the rat problem in the neighborhood. And so we have a bill that will require all construction sites within certain parameters to have a rat mitigation plan, including hiring of pest control, which is not consistently being done in many of the sites. So I think I'm going to pause there because we have so many of my colleagues waiting to speak. But if there's time and appropriate, happy to take a question or two. I also understand you have a busy agenda, but really just excited to work with all of you in the months and years to come on behalf of the neighborhood.
If anybody has a question, please raise your hand. Actually, Borough President, I have a couple of thoughts. One, it would be interesting to know if you or any of your staff see any roadblocks towards the map change, Euler, that's I guess on path towards including the ABC lots. Are you familiar with anything that would slow or keep that from happening?
I think it might be too early to tell, but
my understanding is that George Janes, the urban planner engaged by Landmark West, is delivering some sort of environmental impact statement in the coming weeks. That I guess is the next step in the process. So hopefully, it keeps it moving in a good direction.
I hope so too. I'll talk to my land use director about this tomorrow, and if we have good updates on you, I'll circle back.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything for the borough president? I'm not seeing any hands raised. I'll say one thing really quickly. We're hearing, and some of this is through second sources or watching meetings. It feels like there's some voices that are being quieted in our community board, either through efforts in the bylaws or get folks being removed from the board who have been valuable participants. And I guess I will say personally for myself, I'm hoping that this isn't about quieting voices, maybe even sometimes controversial voices that need to be heard. I just wanted to make that point. I'm sure you're much more aware of these issues than we are.
Intimately aware, and this is probably not the forum to litigate this in detail, but I'll just say that I am deeply committed to transparency and openness in community boards, including Community Board 7, and that we are not going to support changes to the bylaws which stifle that, whether it be in CB7 or anywhere in the borough. And that, I support both robust dialogue and principles that people will treat each other with respect, even if the disagreement on policy is vociferous, as it often is and often should be. We're really looking to establish good standards of conduct so that no one is silenced and no one feels disrespected, and that we have the kind of robust debate that we need on CB7 and throughout the borough.
Thank you for that, and we appreciate your leadership and your busy schedule. And
You
we
got
hope
it,
to see you
Chris.
around.
You will, for sure. Thanks so much,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. And we should pivot quickly to Senator Hoylman, who's in the middle of a busy schedule.
No, I'm happy to wait for Councilmember Brewer. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you, Brad, very much, because I am supposed to be somewhere, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you to the community and certainly to the Block Association. So I'm just going to go through a few things, and then if you have questions and you want them. First of all, we've been in budget negotiations all day, something that Senator Hoylman knows only too well. And I can't obviously say because it hasn't passed, we don't know. But one thing that is of interest to the West Side and to every part of the 5 boroughs is more litter basket pickup. And it looks like it'll be 2 days, twice a day, 7 or 6 days a week. And that's a big difference. So I hope that happens, but it looks like it's on track to do that. And that would be a big deal in terms of particularly the Upper West Side, where there are just tons of people and lots of baskets to be picked up. Second, just in terms of quality of life issues, I just want to talk about the organics because it always comes up. As you know, the mayor suggested in his budget that there be organics at the school, composting picked up by a truck, and that every school has a basket where people can put organics. On the Upper West Side, we are just one of 7 districts, might end up being that for a while, that has organic. So I assume, Chris, that all of the Block Association members are participating in composting, but if not, I'm really begging you, because what we do and what the 7, I think we're 3rd out of the 7 in terms of participation. We're not number 1. And of course, I would like to be number 1 because if you collect and compost, it helps to get rid of the rats. And there's a real connection between both. So anything you can do to push in every newsletter, and I hope people get a copy of our newsletter, we talk about please, please, please participate. So I'm saying that again. It's great that the schools will be doing it. It's great that there'll be bins at the school, but we already have the opportunity to do it, composting from the curb. I also just want to mention, I'm hoping that during the summer, when we have a lot of interns, we can work with the Block Association to just do a whole day of cleanup, be it graffiti and other just plain cleanup. But the sanitation department, for whatever reason, good intergov, good local District 7 leadership, we call them, I don't know, 2-3 times a day sometimes. And they really do come to try to address a specific issue. On 72nd Street, as I think you know, it's when I became a city council member, it looked disgusting, and they have been cleaning it up with the brooms. We've gone door to door with the merchants. We can do that with any block that you think needs that kind of attention. So let me know whether it is walk the block with the Department of Health and the rat mitigation folks or with sanitation, because obviously they have to work together. I'm determined to get people to both compost and to be good leaders in terms of sanitation, but we should do a day of, and we can work together. I also want to just talk about the construction issues generally, some in your area, but throughout the district, just, an awful lot of it. And I was kind of, I guess the word is shocked, because every single time we've asked a developer to participate in a construction task force for the last 30 years, it's always been yes. And the fact that Extel is not doing that, and I've been trying to follow up, Chris, I'm going to introduce a bill that says if a developer doesn't want to participate, he or she's going to have to if the community board and the community request. That seems to me like a very easy response from any developer, and the fact that you might have to legislate it is outrageous. But anyway, we're going to do that, and obviously we're all focused. I'm very supportive of what the Landmarks West is introducing in terms of the special district, and then of course we'll have to deal with the larger challenge of the former, as I guess I would call it, ABC site. But meanwhile, it's not a good omen because it's the same owner, the AB site, and the one that you're describing on 65th Street, 66th Street. Soldiers and Sailors Monument, I want to thank everyone for their support. Obviously on 89th Street and Riverside Drive, I'm very focused on trying to get that monument repaired, restored. And I think the fact that it is on the national, state, and city register, landmarked, my understanding is that it is on the National Register. It is, and that helps us get federal money. So we're going to work hard with our federal legislators to get federal money. It is a $50 million project from what I can see. And the petitions are helpful. And if you want to circulate them more, that would be terrific. West Park Presbyterian Church is a real challenge. I'm determined, and thank you for your support, to keeping it as a building. We're going to try to find a way to get get the hardship which the presbytery and the developer want to be successful, to not be successful. We do not think that it has been cared for by the presbytery, and there's no reason they should get a hardship. It should remain a landmark, but we should find good landmark, good nonprofits to buy it. We're already working on fundraising. We know it's a lot of money. And then once a nonprofit, just so people understand this, owns a building of that magnitude, it's a whole lot easier to get city, state, and federal money. So, and I want to thank Senator Hoylman and Congressman Nadler and others, because they were really helpful at the press conference. The LPC meeting is June 14th, and obviously the community board meeting is June 7th. At the church called also the Center, that's the name of the nonprofit, June 6th is come see the inside, ask any questions, and you're all welcome. Those helicopters are challenging. I think I've tried everything, flying in one, writing letters, press conferences, etc. I believe this very soon, the downtown heliport, which is where some of the tourism that fly up and down the Hudson River come out of, has an RFP to renew the lease for the downtown heliport from whomever the operator will be. We are asking in a letter, and we'll do follow-up, that particular heliport do not allow within its premises non-essential helicopters. There's no reason for them. That doesn't help us with New Jersey. And that, we're also pushing on the federal level for no helicopters over any city of 7 million or more. So I'm just saying we're trying every single aspect of it. But the other thing is not to have the heliport in the middle of the Hudson River Park. So these are the two current asks. But downtown, RFP, the mayor should not allow that to include non-essential helicopters. They can, so that's a current request that absolutely should be followed up on, and any support would be welcome. I did last Friday, May 27th, I did, as others have, visit Rikers Island. And I think, you hear these horrific stories about the officers who aren't showing up and all of the challenges of those who were detained there. It's a very old structure. We went to, I think, 4 out of the 8 buildings. I've been there before as a legislator, and had a lot of foster care kids, and some of them ended up there. So I'm familiar with the buildings and the challenges. I don't know that I learned anything more. The very energetic and personable commissioner has a huge challenge to get people to show up, and he seems to be working on it. And then he has the challenge of how to deal with detainees, A, in terms of their health and care, and then B, what I care about is when they leave the premises, what kind of services are they getting? And what kind of services are they getting on the premises? And I think both of those, you hear about everything else, need a lot of work. I was really impressed with some of the staff people there, and they're new, but a lot to do. I know that open streets has been a challenge. I want to thank Steve and others for working with the BID and the block associations. I was there on Sunday, and I have to say some disagreement. I thought it was well utilized. There were a lot of people, kids playing, using the chalk, tables out. To me, if it's a nice day as it was on Sunday and not horribly hot, it's really, really worth it. So, and there were 3 traffic people as opposed to 2. I do think there should be more signs telling the buses and the trucks and the cars, get away from the turnoff, turn off at 81st, turn off at 86th Street. There is one sign. I think we need more, but I want to say I didn't hear a lot of honking. I'm sure there are still complaints, and some of the bus drivers, because I got on a bus to see, were not aware of the fact that the street was closed, and that's the DOT/MTA issue. So I'm going to make that clear, but I want to let you know it's improving, ways to go. We've done a tree survey, which we will send to you for the entire district to figure out where the trees are and what needs to be filled in terms of the pits. There are a lot of dead trees, and the beds, not the pits. I remember I'm supposed to call them beds. They need to be filled. Congestion pricing is not here now, but you are certainly in the epicenter. We all are of where it would exist. My understanding is that there is a draft environmental assessment that was scheduled to be released in June, but it looks like it'll get final approval by the end of this year. And then it takes even more time to install the tolls. So it looks like the launch could be 2024. I don't know that the Traffic Mobility Review Board has been formed. And I wrote letters, even as borough president, saying someone who has community and transit experience from the borough of Manhattan needs to be on that board. We suggested Christine Berthet from Community Board 4, but it has to be such a person. And I hope that gets done. It's incredibly important. The other issue that's quality of life endlessly are the bicycles, the motorbikes, and so on. It's a pretty constant refrain from going too fast and so on and so forth. And I think we need to have more conversation, whether it's daylighting, corners, speed bumps, etc. I don't know that, taking the motorbikes at the gas stations is one way when they have to fill up. That doesn't deal necessarily with the bicycles because they don't need to fill up anything. So I'm just saying I complain constantly, write letters, and will not give up, but I can't say that I've solved or even come close to doing that. I just want to mention that, we, just like everyone else, we've introduced lots of bills. I won't get into all of them, but, they have to do with all the different, from the organics, we want to make it mandatory so that every single community has the same opportunity that we do here on the West Side, and lots of things about some women's issues and so on. I can send that to you if you want. So those are some of the issues that we've been working on. The district office, we are open every single day. We don't always let people in because we're still a little bit nervous, as the city is and the city council is, about COVID, but every phone is answered. And we have a lovely bench outside where we sit and talk to people and make sure that any questions are answered. Finally, I know the mayor spoke today. Maybe you saw it. I haven't had a chance to at ABNY, Association for Better of New York, about the issue of zoning. And there's nothing more important in our city. So I will look at what he had to say. You might want to do the same. Of course, Dan Garodnick, who is beloved on the West Side, a West Sider now, and also formerly head of Riverside Parks Conservancy, is in charge basically of the zoning issues in the city of New York. So it's a good ally, and we should make sure that we keep him up to date with any of your concerns. So thank you very much, because having you be so organized is helpful to all of us.
Thank you, council member. And I wanted to piggyback off of your comment about your bill for the construction task force. With regards to the Extell construction, which is going to continue to impact the neighborhood for several years because they've just now starting to go vertical. We had task force meetings in the past, as you know. We also used to get look-aheads, weekly look-aheads. And from what I'm hearing, they are not going to do either.
Right.
So any support we can get with, and everybody on this call is directly affected by the trucks, the work, everything that happens related to the construction will be for several years, including 2 crosstown streets. This seems to be important, and it's concerning. Although there's lots of nice guys working on the site who we all kind of chit chat with from time to time, but it's concerning that protocol that used to happen in the past is not being carried forward.
Absolutely.
So anything you can do to help us
Absolutely.
with that.
I am
Yeah.
on it. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. And well, just quickly to see if anybody has John, I see your hand raised. John Day. We don't hear you. We can't hear you, John. Sorry. Maybe write it in the chat. I know that Senator Hoylman has been waiting patiently. So
Hi.
thank you, Councilmember Brewer, and welcome, Senator Hoylman.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Gail. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Reporting from Albany, just as Dick was, to give you a brief update on a few items. One, in terms of mental health and the crisis on our streets, which we see every day, I'm very happy to say that I passed a bill this week that is going to ensure that the state of New York applies for a federal waiver. So hospitals that have more than 15 beds can seek Medicaid reimbursement. Part of the problem has been that these larger hospital facilities don't get reimbursed for longer term stays if they have more than 15 beds. It's a crazy, antiquated rule that dates from the 1970s. And I've passed legislation in the Senate that's going to hopefully direct the state to change that. We have to pass it in the Assembly, but it's one part of a larger public safety package that my colleagues at every level of government are pursuing. So stay tuned on that. Hopefully we'll get that bill passed tomorrow, because tomorrow, Chris, is the last day of session. Secondly, on choppers, and I want to thank the council member for all of her work on this. And thank Assemblymember Gottfried, because he and I both carry a bill that I passed today in the Senate that is going to create a new cause of action for individuals who are bothered by chopper noise and regarded as a nuisance. We're creating an avenue for everyday New Yorkers to file a claim against non-essential chopper companies as a nuisance claim cause of action, as well as the Attorney General is going to be empowered to go after these chopper companies for the first time. So that's kind of path-breaking legislation. First time we've done it in the state of New York. I'm hopeful that Assemblymember Gottfried, who co-sponsors it, will have success in the Assembly, but again, we'll know tomorrow. Third, just a couple of other bills that are very important. Today, Assemblywoman Rosenthal passed a bill that I carry in the Senate on microstamping technology, which will ensure that guns that are newly sold in the state of New York have a requirement that a serial number is encoded on every casing that is every bullet that's fired from a handgun, to help law enforcement track and trace the shells to the guns. It's something California has on the books. Washington, D.C. has it. It's something that Mike Bloomberg and his gun safety organization, Everytown, has been advocating for years. Assemblywoman Rosenthal got it over the finish line in the Assembly. My job tomorrow is to get it over the finish line in the Senate, and hopefully it'll go straight to the governor for her signature. In addition to that, we're passing a number of other gun safety bills. I don't know if Assemblymember Gottfried mentioned them, but one that I carry, in addition to the one on microstandard technology, is banning high capacity magazines, the type of magazine that holds the number of bullets that was used in the Buffalo massacre. We are also banning Kevlar or body armor from being sold or possessed in the state of New York. No sportsman needs that kind of protection. We're requiring that stolen guns be reported to law enforcement. We're strengthening laws around what are called extreme risk protection orders or red flag laws, so that more people can report individuals who may be in danger of harming themselves or others. We're raising the age for various purchases of guns, including shotguns, to 21. So it's a very comprehensive package, but of course we need federal support on gun safety. We can do only so much in the state of New York, and I know the officer would understand this better than I, because illegal guns still flood our streets and our neighborhoods. But I think if New York continues to push with these bills, hopefully we'll see action at the federal level. Of course, we need an assault weapons ban. We need stronger background checks. We need to close the gun show loophole. There's so many things that the federal government hasn't done that the state of New York has done. And then finally, Chris, I know you're limited for time. I'll be following the zoning changes that the mayor suggested at his speech this morning. You know, not for nothing, but the state can take action, corrective action, if some of what the mayor is suggesting goes too far. So we all need to keep an eye on that. I'll be working with my colleagues in government on those in those areas. And then finally, a bill that's really important to so many survivors of sexual abuse, so many victims. We passed in both houses. Assemblywoman Rosenthal carried it in the assembly, called the Adult Survivors Act, which allows adult survivors of sexual abuse who are over 17 years to file retroactive civil claims against their abusers or someone who, an institution that may have protected them. This is a public safety measure as much as it is to give a semblance of hope and closure for sexual assault victims. So a lot going on in Albany. We're literally passing hundreds of bills over the next 24 hours, but I'm keeping an eye on them and advocating for our communities in the process. Good to see everyone.
Thank you, Senator Hoylman, and we appreciate your taking a moment out of your busy schedule and all the work you do for us and for the state. And I know you probably, again, if anybody has a question, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll keep moving through the agenda. Thank you again, and really good to see you. And by the way, your staff has been amazing to deal with, very responsive.
Thank you.
And,
Tevin, I think, is on the Zoom. He's wonderful colleague.
Tevin has been a great collaborator for our community. So again,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, take care. And Sergeant Pallone has been waiting patiently. Thank you. We appreciate.
Hey, Chris,
You're actually the. A small secret. You're actually the person everybody wants to hear from the most. I think you know that.
You really put me on the spot here.
So anyway, welcome. I'm sure folks want to know about what's going on in the sector, in the precinct in general, and may have some questions.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, citywide, crime is up. We've actually been holding the line here at the 20th precinct, where we're one of the better commands, especially with the violence. We haven't really seen an uptick in violence here in the 20th precinct, which is, very, very good news. Monica, we had passed this squad along that video, just so you know, so they have the that video. Outside of that, I mean, a lot of this gun legislation that's going on is great, but we just want to see a little more prosecution on the other end when we do pick up firearms. We've made a record number of gun arrests here in the 20th precinct, which is disturbing because there used to not be that many out here, and now it seems like anybody and everybody can get one. A lot of that has had to do with bail reform, unfortunately. A lot of that has had to do with raise the age, which adults used to be considered 16 years old under the criminal justice system. That has since moved to 18, which I understand, but a lot of these shootings that we're seeing across the city are kids. They shouldn't even be making their own decisions, let alone taking people's lives. If you guys have any any questions you want to direct to me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
I'll, again, folks, if you have a question for the sergeant, please raise your hand. This is an awesome opportunity. And as everybody knows, we have quarterly Build the Block meetings. We try to get the word out when we can through email, but often we use Twitter to do that. And there was let me take this opportunity. At the last Build the Block meeting just a couple of weeks ago, there was a mother of a student at LaGuardia High School, which is literally, down the road from where we're all talking to you from. And it's part of our neighborhood. And she was saying that they don't have enough school safety agents, and that there was word from the administration that they might be shortening the school day because of that. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of their scheduling there, but then the awful news in Texas happened. And I think it makes us all wonder about, in our neighborhood, between MLK Complex and LaGuardia, there's 5,000 or 6,000 students, teachers, and administrators. If they're understaffed for safety, and if our precinct NCOs and our precinct officers are expected to be the ones that go in and deal with a difficult situation like we've heard about lately, what does that mean? And what does that mean to you all, God forbid? And how are you trained to deal with that?
So to start with the school safety agents, they had 10 going back about 10 years ago. Through retirements, people going to different schools, I think they're down to 4 now. They have had a lot of loss in their ranks. A lot of people didn't want to take the vaccine and were forced off the job. Some people left with the anti-cop sentiment. So they're looking to hire at this point. They're all unarmed. So a lot of people in the NYPD are trained by the FBI for active shooter. I can't speak to the officers for Uvalde, Texas, but our problem is not going to be no one going in. Our problem is going to be there's going to be too many cops in there. I mean, after action report, I haven't seen any after action reports, which is usually like what we'll say what happened and what was done wrong, what was done right. I know a lot of that is being the information they got originally was wrong. So there's still, I would love to see a comprehensive report, but if something like that happens here, I hope the people are rest assured that we're going to be going in. We're not waiting for anybody. Our emergency services unit usually takes about 10 minutes to get there. You'll have 100 cops there before 10 minutes. The last time we had an active shooter was in the Bronx at Bronx Lebanon. It wasn't really an active shooter. It was someone came in with a firearm, I think looking to hurt like an employer. And we have like a map that shows all the cars that, where they are and response times. Within 5 minutes, there was, I'm not even kidding, hundreds, probably 500 police cars there for an active shooter. There will not be, if something happens, we're going to be there as quick as we can. One school so far has reached out to me, and we're going to go by and, help them tighten up on their security measures and what they do and their lockdowns. So if any other schools want to reach out, we are happy to go and help them. We have schematics of all the schools in our system, entrances, exits, anything you would need to know.
That's to say that the situation in New York is the precinct officers aren't waiting for federal support.
We're not waiting for anybody. It's us.
Okay.
We're going in.
All right. Thank you for that response.
And we have different equipment. We have like heavy vests in our cars that we can use. We've been issued helmets that will stop rifle rounds but I'm telling you right now, you're going to see 100 cops within a minute at whatever school this is. God forbid God forbid it happens here, you will see 100 cops within a minute at this school.
Well, we certainly don't want to see it happen. Thank you. We also appreciate your support on some of the placard abuse that we've seen in the neighborhood. A couple of years ago, we were seeing it particularly on 66, around 67, mostly 66. This year, we've seen a lot of it on 65, and you can imagine with the construction site and half a lane blocked already, when people are using sometimes forged placards or just parking, taking up space, it's pushing trucks out into the middle lane. You know the drill. So anyway, it's a frustration. I think people in the neighborhood want to be, we have some school program. I don't know if they're school programs for kids on the street, and parents. There's going to be some double parking from time to time. Everybody kind of gets that, but when neighborhood folks who maybe are managers at a local business who just feel like they should be able to park their car where they want it, it's a little frustrating. And again, thank you for your support there. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
So our one challenge, like anytime we get this every once in a while still, Chris, all over the precinct. And a lot of these agencies, like the NYPD has a central database. If you run my license plate, you're going to know that, I have a New York City Police Department issued parking placard. You do that for the MTA, the DOE, a lot of these other agencies, nobody knows. I won't know that your car has a placard. For some reason, they think the police department is abusing their placards. So we have extra oversight for our placards. But I call an agency, like I called the MTA because they had somebody was using an MTA plaque that didn't belong to that car, and I called the MTA. I must have spoke to 25 different people who just kept bouncing me around. They had no idea how to confirm it.
Understood.
So we'll take whatever measures we can to combat it, but it's not always going to end in an arrest.
Yeah, we'd like to figure out how to discourage it, and the only tool we have right now is 311. Anybody questions for the sergeant? No. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next Build the Block meeting or community council meeting.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant Plum. We really appreciate your time.
Be well, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. I don't know if there's anybody else. I should say that we've got, as I said, maybe this is an opportunity. We have some folks in this task force that we put together when COVID happened, and we created a website, and we started collaborating more closely with our friends 68, 69, and 70. And we have Shane Begleiter, who's the president of the 68th Street Block Association, and Kara Kelly, who's plays a big role in the 69th Street Block Association here. If you all have anything that you want to share about what's going on your blocks, please feel free. If you want to unmute and share some thoughts, you'd be welcome.
Hi, this is Kara.
Hey,
I
Kara.
apologize for not being on screen. The biggest thing on our street, as everyone knows, is we've had this big construction project going on for years, so it's a little quieter. So I'm happy to report the biggest thing going on in West 69th Street right now is we had a very successful flower planting event. Week ago, last Saturday, we planted 975 tree plants, flowers. And I think the best thing that came about of it was our street, like probably many in the city, a lot of the younger folks left during the pandemic, right? They all went to live home and save money. But, all those apartments have been reoccupied. And we had one of the best turnouts for volunteers we've had in years. So we felt really good, that the folks who are now living on our street want to be involved. We had over 40 people show up. The majority of them, in their 30s and 20s, the young folks who've moved onto the street. So, you know, the street looks beautiful, but the story of what got us there were all of these volunteers, many of whom just moved to the block within the last year or two, got involved. So we're really excited about that because, one of the things in our block association we talk about is that the neighborliness and the support we give each other. And like we said, if that's evidence of New York's comeback, we feel pretty good on West 69th Street. And then, I think I also want to say is, I think on behalf of Eileen, who's the president, we're always so thankful to Chris and his block association for support and advice. That the project on your street, we wish we could do more, but, we're all learning that what happened on our street would happen on your street. We have to be vigilant. So hopefully it doesn't happen anywhere else. But I know Eileen is very thankful for Chris's solidarity with our block.
Well, that's very kind. And I should just amplify for everybody. This sort of network that we've assembled, and, we're in touch. And if there's a community board meeting, for example, where there's an issue being discussed, we'll sort of alert each other. You might want to tune in, you might want to speak, you might want to, now's an opportunity to let folks know that this is going on. Did you know there's going to be a Japanese Day event on
Oh
your
my gosh,
street?
Chris, you saved us. So just really quickly, it was the day before. We have a monthly get together every second Saturday of the month. We invite neighbors to come out to the curb and have coffee and visit. And it's been a great way to get to know our neighbors. And 2 nights before, we find out they're closing the street for Japanese Parade Festival, and nobody had told us. And fortunately, we had rescheduled our flower planting, which was originally for that day. And Chris told Eileen, the community board's transportation committee's meeting that night. And we got right on I hadn't planned on being on that Zoom, but we got on there, and it was helpful. And what we discovered is not every street closing for those kinds of events goes by the community board, and the community board didn't even know about it. So that was really revealing.
Yeah,
And it turned out to be a fine event, by the way.
Yeah, and it was bustling, and it turns
Oh
out
my
there's a
gosh, yes.
special mayor's office thing that schedules these kinds of events, and it doesn't make its way to the local agencies, I guess. So
Yeah, it was really revealing. So Chris, thanks for that.
I think Shane is on, but maybe is not able to talk. So unless anybody has anything else they want to share, I think we'll begin to wind down. And again, Monica and Phil, if there's anything else that you want to add, you're mute. I'll ask. There you are.
I was just trying to put it in the chat, but you ought to sign up. Everyone who's on this should sign up for our e-blast, our newsletter, which goes out every 2 weeks, hopefully, because we include all sorts of street closures and events that are taking place. And if we can't get them in the newsletter in a timely manner, it's always on our website. I think Shane, in fact, contacted me a day before the Japanese thing. And I said, Shane, it's in our newsletter. And I thought he received it. But in any event, we do try very hard. That's one of the things Phil monitors. Every time there's a street closure or a big event that impacts the neighborhood, we try to include it. So anyone who's, now I have to delete what I started to write. I'll never do this.
Again, thank you for that. And also, you should all know that Phil is one of the 20th precinct sector liaisons and goes to all those meetings.
He goes to all the build the block and everything.
In the loop with the
He really
precinct.
does.
Yeah. If there isn't any other questions, then I'll just share some quick pieces of business, and then we'll wrap this up. So this is sort of going to be both a report from the president and the board, and a little treasury report, and then we're going to talk about officers going forward, or the board going forward for this next year. So in the last year, what you can imagine is last summer, we've been through all the community challenges with the Extell building. Last summer, I was looking through my notes. The city club's appeal was ruled against. They had approached the challenge about split lots and the mechanical voids. And as you all know, Landmark West, their appeal most recently was ruled against. They were trying to approach the lateral voids issue. The Landmark West attorney is filing, I believe, imminently to try and appeal to the highest court of appeals, and we'll see if that appeal is accepted. As we've discussed, we've looked at illegal parking and placard abuse issues. They did a street repaving on 65th. Our bike corral was removed and then restored. It took about 8 months for that to happen. We've been involved in some of the discussion about having more transparency with the Department of Transportation around the open restaurant policies. We've remained involved with the 20th Precinct Sector A, and we've expanded our collaboration with the district-wide community groups and block associations, as some of you have probably seen in the newsletters. The June 1, that's today, balance in our bank account is $3,586.94. We've had revenues so far this year, 2022, of $1,200. Our 2022 expenses is a $50 membership contribution to the Upper West Side Coalition of Block Associations, and we're expecting about $700 in a renewal of our insurance. We may at some point want to have a conversation about potential hybrid meetings. I think everybody is very comfortable doing Zoom meetings, but I know there are folks that would like to start meeting in person, and there's some technology out there available to do hybrid meetings. So you can have the meeting in person, and you can have also that meeting streamed to Zoom and to also, a YouTube channel, for example. So if there's an appetite for beginning to get together, let's hear it, and maybe we can make a hybrid thing happen. Does anybody have anything they want to add or any thoughts? Please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself. Otherwise, the last bit of business is Holly Rothkopf, James Barry, and I are nominated to continue as the board for the Block Association. And if anybody, I guess I'd be asking for a motion to approve that slate and move forward with a vote for that slate, or anybody opposed. You can also just raise your hand and say, okay, I see a first and a second. I guess we'll just say a vote by acclamation.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I want to also take this opportunity to say increased participation in the management of the Block Association is probably going to be something that folks will want to see in the coming years if we want to see this become and continue to be a vital organization. Holly, James, and I have been doing this now for going on 5 years, something like that. And new blood, fresh blood, new thinking, fresh ideas, always a good thing. So please, whoever's watching this, whoever's listening to this, please consider that, you may have new ways of doing it, and you may want to get involved and have your thoughts and your voice heard. So there, that said, I guess I'm asking for a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I'm looking at you, John. Motion to adjourn. Okay. Thank you all. Enjoy the evening and we'll see you around the neighborhood. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.